Okay, so I'm going to try and keep my eyes actually on the camera instead of looking at the screen because I know I seem like a little bit twitchy. Um, Today we're going to talk about plans, and my hair got blown out of place when I went outside. Uh, Today we're talking about plans, and as simple as things seem, if you have a plan, it can just go so much easier. Since our current topic this week is blackouts, uh, we're gonna go with plan for blackouts. Um, I have mine written on these little cheap little memo books. Uh, I don't actually have them in any kind of order, so uh, a plan is good for any situation at all. Um, a blackout situation, you kind of saw what my plan was. I was half asleep, but it did not matter. So, first thing you want to do is don't panic. In short term, which most blackouts nowadays are short term, uh, just go with the flow. Get everyone together, assess your situation, lock the doors and windows, and usually that'll be enough. If you have, you know about the candles and everything, because I went through that on a previous video. For long term, which I count as longer than 24 hours, because by then, usually something like a car wreck into a telephone pole or uh, lightning causing blackouts, usually that's long enough for everything to get fixed. But if an entire section of telephone poles got taken down in a windstorm or a tornado, obviously it's going to take a little bit longer than 24 hours to get back in gear. My longer than plan is don't panic. Find, use the cooked use or cook any food in the refrigerator. Frozen food is good. You can leave it in the freezer. Don't open the freezer very much, and it'll stay good for up to 2 days before it starts to thaw. Stuff in the back and center will thaw a lot slower than stuff that's in the front. So if you can't cook it, if you don't have a way to cook it, uh, well, try and leave it where it is. Don't mess with it. Um, I showed y'all a real easy way to make fire. Uh, and as easy as it sounds, do not do it inside. Uh, there's always the risk of carbon dioxide or monoxide or whatever you want to call it. There's always the risk that it will burn your house down. If you have a fire, go outside where it's not too windy. If you have some cinder blocks, make a little section where everything is good. You don't have to worry too much about embers flying everywhere. Like I said, I had 2 bricks and a grill over top, and it worked just fine. I had a couple of tuna cans and a Vienna sausage can and filled them up, and I was able to cook meat on that little grill. I had a headache afterward because I had to wait for the fire to go out, but it was good. And that was the only time I had a headache, was because I got a little carried away with the alcohol trying to make sure I got the meat cooked. It cooked in about half as much time as I was expecting it to. So, um, let's see. Store your cooked foods in a cool and dry place. Um, Cooked food tends to last longer than raw food. If I had a slab of meat over here, or two slabs of meat, what have you, the raw would go bad long before the uh, cooked would. And cooked makes it just that much easier. If it makes things easier, cook a couple of steaks or something and stick them in the freezer whenever you get a chance. And if a blackout happens, hey, cool, you have meat that only needs heated up a little bit. Uh, some things like fish are kind of iffy. You don't want to store those outside of a refrigerator because of salmonella. Chicken, same thing. Salmonella poisoning is really bad. Food sickness can be really bad. But if you're smart, you can make your refrigerated food basically last you throughout the blackout. Uh, Longer than 48 hours, uh, it's going to be a little tougher because people are starting to get low on food and they're realizing that maybe they don't have any cash on hand. And if you're a prepper or survivalist or somebody who's lived through some kind of catastrophe, you know that power goes out, ATMs do not work. Uh, the connection line between ATM and your bank account has been cut. Uh, it amazes me. A couple of years back, we had a severe snowstorm, and the power in town got cut, and people were going to the store trying to get food, and we couldn't ring anything up because the registers were dead. The store did not have a backup generator. Uh, if you have a backup generator, that's great. Uh, the only problem is you cannot go and get more gasoline because most of the pumps nowadays run off, you guessed it, electricity. Uh, Most places will not let you hand pump out of their tanks, so it's kind of pointless to even have a backup generator or a generator, whatever you have, if you don't have the fuel to make it go. Uh, the electric generators are alright. I don't like them because they really don't put out as much as diesel generators, but what works works. If you have a medical condition where you are hooked up to an oxygen tank, those only have so much life as a battery, and if you don't have extra storage tanks, oxygen tanks lying around, you could be in trouble. You'd have to go to the hospital, and nobody wants to do that, especially if you're in a densely populated area and there's no power for the lights. Lots and lots of car accidents and blackouts. I'm kind of going off on a tangent there. The main thing is, do not panic at all. If you've been listening to some of these videos, you know that you have food, edible food all around you. You just have to figure out how to cook it, or in my case, I get some of these little protein meal bars that I had for dinner. They're good. They take the edge off the hunger. Things like seasonings work really well. If you're gonna start storing food, store seasonings too. Every kind of seasoning, because I mean, if I just had to eat plain white rice and beans, I'd probably get sick of it really fast. Another thing to consider is safety. And I know this goes with a lot of extremists out there. Oh, you need so many guns to be safe. You don't necessarily need the guns. You don't necessarily need a bullet for every person in town. Because 9 times out of 10, things will be resolved quickly and peacefully. And if you work with your neighbors, it can be easier to combine your resources and stay protected. Me, I have my little 22 rifle that I use to hunt little game. And I have a nice big stick that would keep most anybody out of range. I have a pistol, but I am not very good with it, though I am practicing. Gotta practice. I want to say that in most situations, the last time I had blackout that lasted over 24 hours, I was living on the 3rd floor of an apartment building, and it was in a retirement center. I was taking care of my mom, and nobody died because they had a plan in place. The people that were on medical equipment to help them breathe, to keep things moving in them, like somebody had a COPD machine. It had a 24-hour battery life. Blackout lasted for 3 days. They moved her to the hospital. I had a neighbor in a wheelchair. People carried her downstairs. When a blackout happened, people came together and had a plan in place. It was hot on the 3rd and 2nd floor, so everybody moved down to the 1st floor where they opened up the dining area. And it was hot in there too, but they had windows to keep the breeze going. They had electric battery-operated fans to help move the air. It wasn't as hot in the ground floor as it was in the 3rd floor. Heat rises. If you're in a 2-story home and live in Texas, you know how hot it can get. Heat rises, but winter is more deadly. I know it doesn't seem like it because everybody always says, well, I'd rather be cold than hot because you can always add layers, but you can't take that many off. Yes and no. First off, if there is a blackout in winter, you're going to need to get everybody together in one area and try and share body heat. And as odd as it sounds, you should not really build a fire if you have a fireplace while people are sleeping, because sparks and embers can get out and it can be a mess. I find that having a nice thick jacket on hand, and I put mine up the other day, so having a nice big jacket on hand helps. If there are 3 places on the body that you need to keep warm. Keep your ears and nose warm, and your extremities. 4 places, I guess. Ears, nose, feet, and hands. Those are the coldest places on the body. If you keep your head covered, make sure you don't build up too much of a sweat, because that heat that causes you to sweat, as soon as you take your head covering off, like a beanie or cap or whatever it is, that sweat will start evaporating and make you cold. And that just sucks out the heat that much faster. If you're going to be sleeping on a hard surface, put layers. Put padding in between the ground and the and yourself. People, I'll go on in this on the next video. I'll upload 2 videos today. There is like 5 seconds left. Drop a like, comment, share, what have you. Y'all have a good day.